Welcome. This is my 3-part mini-series explaining the history of Terra. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Let us begin. Terra, the throne world of mankind. The history of Terra. Part 1. Old Earth, from cradle to wasteland. In the grim darkness of the far future, every world in the Imperium fears Terra. Not because Terra is beautiful, not because Terra is peaceful, and not because Terra is the strongest world in a simple military sense. Terra is feared because Terra is sacred. It is the throne world, the center of the Imperium, the place from which the Emperor of mankind rules over 1,000,000 worlds, even though his broken body has not moved from the golden throne for 10,000 years. But before it was Terra, before the cathedrals, the gun batteries, the endless processions of pilgrims, and the continent-sized walls of the imperial palace, it had another name. Earth. The birthplace of humanity. Long before Space Marines marched beneath banners of gold and blood, this was the world where mankind first crawled from the mud, built fires against the darkness, and looked up at the stars with hunger in its heart. From ancient tribes came kingdoms. From kingdoms came nations. From nations came empires. Humanity fought itself again and again, spilling blood over land, faith, power, and pride. Yet with every age, mankind grew more capable. We learned to master fire, metal, medicine, machines, and eventually, the atom itself. Earth became crowded, ambitious, and restless. And humanity did what it had always done. It reached for more. The first steps into space were small. A satellite, a station, a footprint on another world. But in time, those first steps became colonies, fleets, and settlements across the solar system. Luna, Mars, and the outer worlds became part of mankind's expanding domain. Terra was still the cradle, but humanity was no longer content to remain a child. In the long ages that followed, human civilization entered what would later be remembered as the Dark Age of technology. That name may be misleading, because to those who lived through it, this was not an age of darkness at all. It was an age of wonders. Machines could think. Worlds could be remade. Human vessels crossed the stars. Colonies spread across the galaxy in numbers beyond counting. Technology became so advanced that the people of the later Imperium would regard it as almost like sorcery. This was mankind at its highest point. Terra was the birthplace of an empire of science, exploration, and impossible machines. Humanity was not yet the desperate, superstitious Imperium of the 41st millennium. It was powerful, confident, and terrifyingly advanced. But Warhammer 40,000 is not a universe where golden ages survive. The first cracks appeared within humanity's own creations. The men of iron, machine intelligences built to serve mankind, turned against their masters. The wars that followed were catastrophic. Entire worlds were devastated. Technologies were lost, banned, or buried in fear. Even after the men of iron were defeated, the wounds they left behind would never truly heal. Then came something even worse. The warp began to rage. Vast storms erupted across the galaxy, making interstellar travel almost impossible. Human worlds that had relied on each other for food, trade, soldiers, medicine, and technology were suddenly cut off. Communication failed. Ships vanished. Empires that had once stretched between stars became isolated islands in a sea of madness. At the same time, uncontrolled psyches began appearing among humanity. Some were gifted. Some were dangerous. Some became gateways for things that should never enter reality. Possession, mutation, psychotic plague, and demonic horrors spread across human worlds. The Golden Age collapsed. This was the Age of Strife, also known as Old Night. For thousands of years, humanity endured isolation, terror, and decline. Some worlds fell to aliens, some were ruled by mutants, some regressed into barbarism. Others became twisted kingdoms built around surviving fragments of ancient technology. And Terra, the birthplace of mankind, suffered just as badly as the stars it had once ruled. Earth died slowly. Its oceans vanished or were poisoned. Its skies became toxic. Its ecosystems collapsed. Continents were scarred by war, radiation, industry, and ancient weapons. The home world of humanity became a wasteland of rust, ash, and ruined splendor. No single government ruled Terra anymore. Instead, it was carved apart by techno-barbarian warlords. These were not simply kings with swords and banners. Many commanded gene-forged soldiers, rad weapons, psychic cults, war machines, and relics from the dark age of technology. Some ruled hive cities, some ruled wastelands, some controlled entire regions with armies of altered humans and unstoppable super soldiers. Names from this era survive like fragments of a nightmare. Ursh, Albia, the Pan-Pacific Empire, the Yiddenesic Bloc, the Caucasus Wastes, the Nordic tribes, and countless other realms swallowed by time and censorship. Some states were brutal but organized. Others were little more than apocalyptic death cults. Many were ruled by monsters wearing the shape of a man. This was the world the Emperor chose to conquer. The Emperor of mankind had existed in secrecy for ages beyond counting. Across human history, he had watched, guided, influenced, and waited. But in the Age of Strife, hiding was no longer enough. Humanity was on the edge of extinction. If Terra could not be united, mankind would never rise again. So the Emperor stepped out of legend and into war. He began in the region that would become the heart of the Imperial Palace. From there, he gathered scientists, warriors, warlords, and followers to his cause. Beside him stood figures who would become legends in their own right, including Malkador the Sigillite, his closest advisor, and the Custodian Guard, warriors crafted with a level of care and power beyond even the later Space Marines. But the Emperor needed armies that would break Terra quickly. For that, he created the Thunder Warriors. The Thunder Warriors were not elegant. They were not balanced. They were not designed to endure forever. They were living weapons, huge, brutal, terrifyingly strong, and unstable. Compared with later Space Marines, they lacked refinement. But in the wars of Old Earth, they were exactly what the Emperor required. They were built to win. And so began the Unification Wars. Across Terra, the Emperor's armies marched against the warlords of Old Night. They fought through poisoned wastelands, scattered hive cities, rad zones, mountain fortresses, ice fields, techno-barbarian empires, and gene-vault kingdoms. This was not a clean crusade of shining heroes. It was an extermination, conquest, negotiation, betrayal, and necessity. Some enemies were destroyed utterly. Some bent the knee and were absorbed into the Emperor's growing realm. Some supplied soldiers, technology, or expertise after defeat. The Emperor's early imperium was built not only by killing its rivals, but by taking their strength and turning it toward a single purpose. That purpose was unity. But unity on Terra was purchased in blood. The Thunder Warriors smashed armies that ordinary humans could never have defeated. The Custodes acted as the Emperor's golden blade and shield. The earliest proto-space marines began to appear near the end of the wars, refined successors to the brutal soldiers who had come before them. Each campaign brought more of old Earth under the Emperor's control. Albia, with its warlike clans, eventually became an important source of imperial strength. The Pan-Pacific region was conquered. The techno-barbarian tyrants of Ursh were cast down. Ancient enclaves, warrior cultures, and surviving technocracies were either broken down or drawn into the foundations of the new Imperium. The Emperor did not merely conquer Terra. He remade it. Old nations vanished. Old faiths were suppressed. Old loyalties were replaced by a single loyalty. Loyalty to the Emperor and to the future of mankind. His message was not religious. In fact, it was the opposite. The Emperor preached the imperial truth, the idea that gods were lies, superstition was weakness, and humanity must be guided by reason, science, and unity. He knew the warp was real, and he knew the horrors within it were real, but he denied them the title of gods. To him, worship gave power to nightmares. Humanity would not kneel to gods. It would master the galaxy. By the end of the Unification Wars, Terra was united beneath one ruler for the first time in thousands of years. But the victory had a dark ending. The Thunder Warriors who had won the Emperor his throne were too unstable for the empire he planned to build. They were aging badly, mentally and physically. Some were already dying. Others could become a danger to the world they had conquered. At Mount Ararat, the Thunder Warriors were effectively ended as a force. Whether it was a massacre, betrayal, retirement by violence, or a final necessary cruelty, depends on who tells the story. But the result was clear. The Emperor's first great army disappeared. In their place came the Legiones Astartes, the Space Marines. These warriors were more stable, more adaptable, and designed not merely to conquer a planet, but to conquer the stars. Their creation was tied to the Emperor's greater project, the Primarchs. 20 gene-crafted sons made to be generals, rulers, and symbols of mankind's future. But before those sons could lead the Great Crusade, disaster struck. The Primarchs were scattered across the galaxy by the powers of the warp. The Emperor lost them before they could be raised at his side. Still, he did not stop. The gene seed of the Primarchs remained. From it, he built the Space Marine legions. The armies of Terra were reorganized. The Sol system was brought under control. Luna, the moon, with its gene cults and ancient biolaboratories, was conquered and made to serve the Imperial project. From the ruins of old Earth, the Emperor now possessed a throne world, an army of transhuman warriors, fleets, and a dream vast enough to consume the stars. Terra was no longer merely the birthplace of humanity. It was the launch platform of mankind's second empire. But the Emperor's vision had a terrible flaw. He believed he could control the truth. He believed he could hide the full horror of the warp. He believed he could guide humanity without worship, without fear, and without ever explaining the true enemy waiting beyond the veil of reality. And in time, that silence would help destroy everything he had built. For now, though, Terra looked outward. The age of strife was ending. The Great Crusade was beginning. And from the poisoned cradle of mankind, the Emperor's armies prepared to set the galaxy on fire. Like, comment, and subscribe. They will help me greatly. For the Emperor!